It has been an absolutely wild few days. Absolutely wild. We're going to go over them. Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to a special fireside chat. I'm your host, Wolf the Red. Tonight, I invite you by the fire for us to talk about the AFA. That's the Asatru Folk Assembly. Many of you already know who they are, but for the few who don't, they hold the title for America's largest and most outspoken religious hate group. They are a white supremacist, folkist organization that has a reputation for worming their way into places they aren't welcome. On their website, they have disgusting values lined out, such as their Declaration of Purpose. Declaration point number 2, the preservation of the ethnic European folk and their continued evolution. If the ethnic European folk cease to exist, Asatru would likewise no longer exist. Let us be clear, by ethnic European folk, we mean white people. It is our collective will that will not only survive, but thrive and continue evolution, direction of the infinite. All native religions spring from the unique collective soul of a particular race. Holy shit. Religions are not arbitrary or accidental. Body, mind, and spirit are all shaped by evolutionary history of the group and are thus interrelated. This is insane. Asatru is not just what we believe, it is what we are. That's not true. That doesn't even make sense. Therefore, the survival of and welfare of the ethnic European folk as a cultural and biological group is a religious imperative of the AFA. None of that made sense. Factually and scientifically incorrect, theologically unfounded, incoherent, drivel. This, of course, is nonsense. Heathenry is existing just fine in the communities that are mixed race and have queer folks present in them. But we also have this, their family principle, and this is principle number 4. Healthy families are the cornerstone of folk society, and its strength and prosperity is derived from them. We in Asatru support strong, healthy, white family relationships. We want our children to grow up to be mothers and fathers to white children of their own. We believe that those activities and behaviors supportive of the white family should be encouraged, while those activities and behaviors destructive of the white family are to be discouraged. Not only is this openly racist, it bans interracial marriage and adoption, it supports forced birth positions, and shames people who cannot have children as being destructive to the white race. It, of course, throws queer folks into that as well. Only straight white people are allowed. So now we know who they are, at least in principle. So what are they getting up to for me to need to talk about them tonight? A few days ago, a UK-based organization known as the Police Pagan Association were made aware that the AFA had a leader, known as a folk builder, in their area organizing an event at the world-renowned Stonehenge. It was set to take place in late October, and a ritual would have been performed there in the name of white supremacy, on the grounds of one of the world's most spiritual landmarks. The folk builder running the event, James Saunders, was very confident that he would receive little to no pushback worth worrying about. It was at this point the Police Pagan Association drafted a declaration response. I'm going to read that right now. There are a lot of notations and citations I'll be including in the description of the video. A response to the proposed Asatru Folk Assembly Winter's Night event at Stonehenge. Paganism is the 7th largest religion in the UK. According to the 2021 census, paganism grew by 34% in 10 years, making it the 2nd fastest growing religion, comparative to size, in the UK. Emboldened by an increasingly conservative and traditionalist political landscape, racially exclusive right-wing extremist groups such as the AFA, Asatru Folk Assembly, are making use of this renaissance in an attempt to establish a foothold and some semblance of validity in the UK. The AFA was founded in the US by Stephen McNallen, a self-proclaimed racial separatist who espouses his neo-völkisch, or Folkish, pseudo-scientific theory of metagenetics, a combination of biological determinism and eugenics, which claims that heathenry can only be practiced by those of white, Northern European heritage. Both McNallen and his predecessor, Matt Flavell, promote David Lane's 14 words among their core tenets. The AFA openly and proudly promote a racist, homophobic, misogynistic, and anti-Semitic interpretation of contemporary Germanic paganism that is abhorrent to the law-abiding and inclusive pagans and heathens of the UK represented by the groups who have co-authored this correspondence. The AFA employ folk builders, members who recruit and radicalize others into their extremist and racially exclusive interpretations of heathen paganism. Folk builders are employed to access pagan communities and armed forces, emergency services, and the prison systems in an attempt to recruit members and establish a presence in institutions that pose a significant threat to national security. On the 8th of September, 2023, newly appointed AFA folk builder James Saunders posted on Twitter/X that the AFA will be hosting its first Winter Nights event at Stonehenge on the 28th of October, 2023, at 7 p.m. We cannot allow the AFA to desecrate a symbol of our cultural heritage and a site of spiritual significance to pagans across the UK, with their imported brand of racist, homophobic, misogynistic, and anti-Semitic paganism that shares nothing with the inclusive contemporary iteration of British paganism, and which is fundamentally incompatible with the wonderfully diverse, multicultural communities of the UK. The latest iteration of the Prevent Duty Guidance rightfully identifies extreme right-wing ideology as a resurgent and significant threat to national security. However, the AFA differs from the definition provided in that they are an organized, hierarchical group with territorial ambitions. Permitting the AFA to openly promote themselves by way of a public event at Stonehenge would assist them in establishing a foothold in the UK and providing the foundation they need to perpetuate their divisive and extremist narrative that will only contribute to the already increasing risk posed by extreme right-wing terrorism in the UK. We would like assurances from the agencies and statutory bodies responsible for protecting the safety and integrity of Stonehenge that they will assess this event and consider their duties under Prevent and work in partnership to address this issue to prevent a symbol of national heritage being co-opted as a symbol of extremism, far-right hate, and division. The pagan and heathen bodies represented herein would like to take this opportunity to declare that paganism, including the contemporary Germanic paganism known as heathenry, is open to anyone, regardless of their age, disability, neurodiversity, gender identity, race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation, and that we wholly reject the racist, homophobic, misogynistic, and anti-Semitic interpretation of paganism promoted by the AFA as incompatible with our tenets and values. That was a lot, and it was well said, to be honest. It was then encouraged for all orgs and kindreds to share the post and add their names to the declaration. I, of course, shared the information in the Hold, our online pagan community. I then reached out to Jack Hudson, president of Asatru UK, and asked how I could help. We discussed some options and strategies that I could help boost exposure, and I offered to make this video. I also suggested looking at getting a petition started. The next morning, the president of the Police Pagan Association, Andrew Pardee, awesome name by the way, created a change.org petition that had the same statement from the day before in it. As founder of Hearthfire Kindred in Georgia and one of the leaders of the Hold, I, Wolf the Red, state firmly that racism and bigotry have no place in paganism of any kind. Anyone who discriminates based on race, gender, sexual orientation, or ability is not someone who should be associated with. If you stand with hate, you stand alone. I then brought it again to the hold for everyone to sign. Within an hour or so, we had about 1,000 signatures. Once Ocean Keltoy shared it on his community page on YouTube, and based on the response there, he brought another 1,000 or so signatures to the petition. As of reading this right now, it has over 4,200 signatures. In the span of just over a day, thousands of pagans added their voices to combat racism, spreading and denying them the legitimacy that they so desperately desire. The English Heritage, who is the charity that manages over 400 historical sites, including Stonehenge, was made aware of the desires of the AFA and naturally denied them access to the site. As it turns out, the English Heritage had no idea the AFA wanted to be there that day. No dates were filed, no requests for events were made. The AFA, like all fascists, thought they could just waltz in and take it over. But of course, this is not the case. James didn't take kindly to this news and deleted his event post on Twitter. When asked about it, he said he did it for member well-being. Then, as we put more heat on him and sent more folks to the petition, James deleted his entire Twitter account. Something a little unprecedented, as the AFA like to maintain social media presences, to make themselves seem more organized and larger than they are. So, that's where we are now. It's fucking wild. Honestly. It's wild how quickly everything went. It's wild. One, that the AFA didn't... It blows my mind a little bit that the AFA didn't think to, like, get their ducks in a row ahead of time. Like, yes, fascists are stupid. Let's be honest. It shouldn't surprise me that they didn't have their ducks in a row. The AFA has unfortunately been pretty successful when it comes to how they spread. They know how to work the legal system. They know how to get churches started up. Them trying to rent this event space at Stonehenge, I'm not sure what the process is to filing for that, but whatever steps existed, they didn't look into it and just made the event, thinking that would just be okay. Which, again, blows my mind. I'm not sure what they were thinking there. They clearly weren't, and that's a good thing. I'm glad that we stopped them there. But James said that they would be trying to reschedule. Now, the English Heritage Foundation said they have made a statement that they are aware of the AFA and who they are. So, anything that is tied to the Heritage Foundation will likely get denied on principle. More good news. Love to hear that. AFA is not going anywhere. They're not going to disappear. Hate will always exist, unfortunately. I don't think that we'll be able to stamp it out, not in any of our lifetimes. So that means that the AFA will just move on to something else. If they can't organize at Stonehenge, they will organize wherever they can. They will find a random monument on the side of the road. They will find a mountaintop. They will find a grove in the woods. They will do it at a coffee shop. I am sure there is a racist business owner somewhere in the UK who would be glad to have the AFA inside their establishment. I do not say that to make you lose hope. I do that to raise awareness that, yes, this win is fucking awesome. Every one of you who signed that declaration, who shared the petition around, you guys need to be giving yourselves a pat on the back. That is more than a lot of other people do. Think about how many people we know and have seen who refuse to denounce the AFA. This is why making statements and declarations is important. It shows everybody where you stand and where the majority stands. That helps places like the English heritage make decisions to fight fascism. It is why being quiet is never an option. Raising your voice will always be the morally good option. There are a couple things that we can go over. Talking about the state of heathenry, where are we now? I've talked about how it seems that there are three levels of heathenry and politics in general, but within heathenry, within paganism, you're going to have your far right fascists. You're going to have your racists, your idiots, your folkists, all those folks. It's this small group right here. It's this small group on this side of the spectrum. And then, it's left for y'all, but it's right for me. So, here's your right. Here's your right. I can't tell where the camera angle is. But here's your right. And then you're going to have us over here. My right, your left. This is us over here. And we're a pretty sizable group, right? We're educated. We're terminally online, which is actually a huge help when it comes to things like this. Fascists aren't getting online, spreading petitions around and all that good stuff, making connections overseas. They're isolated. Now, they are good at mobilizing to, like, rate a post or whatever, but then they all log off and go do whatever it is fascists do during the day, lick the wall or whatever. The problem is, there's a middle group that is, like, the other 80% of paganism. It is this large group who are just there to vibe. They are the ones who aren't well educated on the theological content. They don't really know why they believe what they believe. They haven't thought it through. They probably hold some problematic views, but are uneducated. These are the people who could be scooped up by us if given enough patience and enough time. You guys have seen that. Probably some of you are in the audience right now. You came in thinking things that were a little yikesy or stating things a little weirdly, and the mods or other folks had to sit you down and go, hey, let's talk about this for a minute. Let's educate. And then you walked away from it, and now you're a better person for it, right? Like you're a better pagan. That's what we want. We want that. That's why the hold exists. That's why there's over 5,000 of you here. We want that. We want to grow the community. Some folks are really frustrating, like some of the folks that we dealt with recently, where it felt like talking to a brick wall, and eventually we realized, hey, actually you're not a good fit for the community. Super unfortunate. I wish I could change your mind. Sometimes we have spent 8 hours talking to one person all day. The patience that the mod team has, that the community has in trying to teach people is seemingly unlimited, but it is limited. And on those days where it doesn't work out, it's unfortunate that that time was wasted. But the effort is worth it. It's something I firmly believe. Because the fascists also agree. And the problem is, their solution is much cheaper. Just make shit up. You don't have to be accurate. You don't have to do the right thing or be nuanced or carefully researched. You can just make up anything you want. You can just say paganism's for white people only, and the white person's just going to be like, oh, that's cool, I'm white, sure, and then not have to think about it any more than that, because thinking is hard and hurts the brain. So it creates this situation where we have to do 100 times worth the work, and the fascists don't have to do all of that. They just get to lie. They just get to make it up. Whether or not they believe it is not important. It's whether or not they can make someone else believe it. That's the state of heathenry that we're in right now. It's the state of paganism. It is a very rough spot for us to be in. But I also think that with building coalitions with other orgs, orgs who are actually doing something, actually speaking up, actually saying something, those are the orgs that we need to be looking at and wanting to support. the AFA wants to spread. Their desire is to spread. That's all they care about. All they want to do is buy more land. They have recently opened up there's a kindred in Georgia called the Five Arrows, and apparently they are down with the AFA, and are now being like sponsored. I don't know how it works. I don't know if they treat it like a motorcycle patch over, where basically the dominant in the area comes in, grabs them up, and then says, "Hey, you're under our umbrella now. You get our support, you get our protection, but you also have to kind of like swear allegiance to us." And for any racist kindred, that probably wouldn't be a downside for them. They would just see the net positive from their perspective. So I'm assuming that's how it works. I don't know the inner workings of the AFA, so I can only assume. But know thy enemy. That's the logical path that it seems like they would take. So they're spreading steadily, and that's really unfortunate. And so we need to figure out the best ways for us to get them to stop, because how they present themselves to the public is essential to them. Their squeaky clean presentation is one of their strongest tools in their tool belt. Yeah, if you ever look at them, they look like Baptists. They dress in, no face paint, no LARP, no dress up. Every now and then you might get a little bit of regalia, but it's very simple, and it leans more Catholic than what you would see at like a TikToker or an Instagram witch or whatever. You're not going to get any of that. You're going to get a dude in a really nice suit with some like robe drapery over his shoulders in black and gold or whatever. And that's all part of presenting the image. They all wear business suits. They all have like professional headshots taken. Presentation is everything to them, because they want to look like they are doing good. They do food drives. They do pantries. They do other community service. They present themselves as this squeaky clean organization, and that's how they draw people in. This is not an endorsement of the AFA. This is not saying that they do a good job. This is letting you know that this is why people don't immediately kick them out, because they don't look problematic, and they're doing things for the communities that they're in, their local communities. Meanwhile, the largest organization in America that is supposedly inclusive is not doing stuff like that. They're not putting themselves out there. They're not doing local community service in a way that is presentable. It becomes really tough to point to the AFA and go, they're bad, while they are also presenting themselves in a way that is easily digestible to people who don't know any better. How can people help and get involved with pushing back against them? That is definitely one of the main questions here tonight. What can you do? Number one, be educated. This video is about spreading the message. This video is about making sure people understand who the AFA are. That way, if someone does have a question, you can just send them this video, right? Hold on a minute, my fire is dying. Sharing the video out, getting the word out there, helping people be educated, educating yourself on dog whistles. I've got a video on dog whistles. Ocean is in that video as well. I go over like the development of dog whistles, what to look for, what some of the modern ones are, what some have been in history. There are some dog whistles in some of the AFA pictures. They're holding up their hand like this in some of their pictures, and I'll post some of those in the video. And we had to do some digging, but it looks like there's a Nazi salute that is in, I think, a prison in Tennessee. I'm going off the cuff here a little bit, so forgive me what's on screen doesn't match what I'm saying right now. And then there's also a KKK. This is supposed to be like a K. It's sometimes done on the side. A couple of the guys did it on the side like that, but a couple of them had it going up. In another prison gang, this is supposed to be bolts to the sky for the two SS bolts for a Nazi symbolism. And the AFA has several pictures on their Twitter of people using that hand sign. And so these are dog whistle stuff that you have to be educated on and be able to look for. And when you have friends or family who are like, yeah, but maybe they're okay, be like, no, look, they're doing the hand sign. Like, being able to be educated on those things is extremely important, and it's what I spend a lot of my time doing. It's how I'm able to spot things as quickly as I am. It's how I'm able to protect my community as well as I do. Keeping the mods educated and stuff like that, and also the mods educating me as well. That's why I built the team that I have, is so that we can stay on top of this stuff and keep you guys educated and keep you guys safe. So that's one of the things that you can do, is just arming yourself with knowledge so that you can't be taken off guard, because that is how fascists operate. They operate within the shadows. They're always hiding their power level, and they have to do sneaky little things to exist among other fascists using their dog whistles. One of the other things that you can do, and this is for those of you who are a little bit more online, spread the word around, right? If you see someone who is maybe accidentally using a dog whistle, educate them on it. Send them my video, send them Ocean's video, send them any of the educational material that is applicable to the situation. Spreading mine and Ocean's videos around is going to be essential to keeping the pagan community up to date and educated on topics within paganism. There's just really no other way around that. But one of the other things that you can do is get involved with a local org. Now, there's a problem in that I don't know of any productive local org in the United States that is worth getting involved in. I don't know anybody who's doing on-the-ground work in the United States. If there is, honestly, I want to talk to you. If there's a kindred or something who's doing local activism, reach out to me. Shoot me a DM. You can reach out to me on Discord, join the Discord, shoot me a DM. I'd love to talk to you and see what we can do about doing some kind of collaboration or effort. But in the UK, there are a lot of inclusive orgs that all signed that document. There's a long, long list. I'm going to put them up on screen. I'm going to make sure that their names are in the description of the video. The problem in the US is the whole individualism. The UK is tiny, right? Like, I'm not trying to, be funny here, but the UK is tiny. The United States is massive. One of our states is bigger than the entire UK. It creates a problem when it comes down to finding locals and being able to coordinate and work with them. So, trying to find local pagans in your area is a pain in the butt. One of the things that I always tell people is to go on Facebook or meetup.com, type in Viking your area or pagan your area. In Georgia, I found, about 24 Facebook groups. Some of them had about 50 members in them. Some of them had 1,000 members in them. Pagans of Georgia Facebook, I think, has well over 1,000 members in them. You can also join bigger Facebook groups. I'm in a couple that have 200,000 members or 300,000 members. And then you just say, hey, I'm in this area. I'm looking for inclusive pagans who support Declaration 127, who support Declaration of Deeds. Are there anybody in my area who is down for that? You're going to get a lot of random responses. You're going to get people who make fun of you for being inclusive. Ignore those fucks, right? Getting in an argument with somebody on Facebook is the biggest waste of your time. But if you can link up with somebody who's in your area, within driving distance, within walking distance, that would be awesome, right? And then you guys can start trying to, like, build something together. You guys can collaborate. You guys can watch each other's backs. A step further, and this is something that I want to start advocating for a little bit more vocally, start getting involved in your local politics as a pagan. Now, that's going to be difficult, because that means coming out of the broom closet to at least a certain degree. For those of you who are older and you live on your own and don't rely on your family, this is something that I call on you for. This is a call to action. Get involved in your local politics. Go to council meetings. Go to town meetings. Your local municipality has meetings once a month. Go. Sit in the crowd. Get to know people. When the meeting ends, walk up to your city council, shake their hands, introduce yourself. Let them know you're a pagan. Let them know that you're an inclusive pagan, and that you, if you heard some policy or something that you're interested in that sounds good, let them know that you're interested in it. Let them know that if they need support, that you want to support them. Eventually, what you can do, and if someone wants to do this and you want to talk to me about this, come talk to me and I will support you in doing this. I'll help you achieve this. Opening your city council with prayer is going to be a cool thing to do, and we can help write a little thing of justice, maybe invoking Tyr and Thor and other deities such as that. Because if Christians, if they get to open their city council with a Christian prayer, you'll be able to open it with a pagan prayer. I've seen it be done. I think Ocean even has a video on his channel of someone doing that. That's how I know it exists. So these are things that you can do locally to get involved. In that way, when it comes time for the AFA to start moving into your area, you have an in with the local municipality, and you can go to them with an educated mindset, with educational material, this video, tons of links, tons of citations, and lay it all out and say, hey, these guys are a hate group. They should not be allowed to develop in this area. They are, in the United States, protected under the First Amendment. They have religious freedom. But if there is a way for them to be stopped, doing it before they get in the area would be the way to do that. And so that is why I encourage getting involved now instead of waiting later, showing up to a town meeting and having to look a folk builder in the eye who has already purchased the plot of land and started developing the church in your town. By then it's too late, right? Let's see. It's not all protests. Yeah, protesting is very based and good. Likely there will need to be some protests done at Stonehenge, I assume, at some point, because it seems like the AFA is going to reschedule their event and want to go to the events anyways. The AFA will go to anything that they think that they deserve to be at. And of course, they're white supremacists, so they think they deserve the country. Organizing protests against them can be good, but you have to be really smart about it. Activism of that level has to be done intelligently. If you give them a reason to look like the victim, they will absolutely take it. So, being smart about how you do your activism is essential. There are lots of videos on how to do protests properly, safely, legally, while also maintaining your own rights to protest within the United States. And those are videos that I would suggest you look at. I don't know all of the rules, so I'm not going to start giving a ton of advice on that. But yeah, protesting is good and based, but also it's not always protesting, right? So, like these other options that I've listed out, where you can share videos, get involved with local government, get involved with local pagans, find out if there's anybody who's meeting up who are inclusive, who are good, get involved with them, and see what you guys can do about coalition building and finding some kind of way to push back against hate entering your neighborhoods. And yeah, just don't stand by while the AFA is promoted. That's one of the biggest things. If you see someone promoting the AFA, start throwing out links left and right. Make sure that everybody in the room who may be on the fence or not understand what's going on, make sure that they know that if they say this is based in good, they're having to say that, like, white supremacy is based in good, right? Not just, oh, they're just promoting European ethnic culturalism, blah blah blah. Uh, they're building churches and they're doing food drives. It's like, yeah, but they're white supremacists of the worst kind. They're a hate group. They hate black and brown people. That way, when the AFA is supported by anybody, they are having to defend all of that, right? Like, just lay all the bodies out on the floor and make sure that they have to defend all of that in a room full of onlookers. Government. All right, question. What's the best way for us to address the AFA if they're already being insidious in our local government? All right, so if the AFA or a white supremacist or a fascist you believe is in your local government, that's going to be difficult. That's going to be one of those things where you will have to tread lightly. You have to be intelligent about how you move about if you're trying to be involved. Making sure that your community knows that that's what it is, right? Because even in the most, like, rural of areas, I'm in a pretty rural area, but even our county was, I think, 35% blue. So it's not everybody, right? My local town government has some solid left-leaning people. We've had 2 drag shows in the last month and a drag poetry reading, and then my local city's pride is sometime mid-October. And people have tried to get it shut down, and the local governments said, get the fuck out of our face. They're allowed to do this. They're not hurting anybody. And told them all to fuck off in an official way. So, not all hope is lost, right? What you need to do is, this is something that I firmly believe, bacteria dies in sunlight. Shine light on it. Be careful about how you do it. Don't make yourself a target. But make sure that everybody who around, especially around voting time, everybody knows who that person is, what they believe in, document, catalog, and have it be publicly available and easily accessible, all that information. So that way, when someone runs against them, they'll have an easier time at doing that. Because even the most, like, worst person, like, if the question is worded a certain way, 70% of America supports trans people existing. I know that's like a shocking statistic, but people generally aren't as hateful as they seem. They aren't as inclusive as we need them to be, but not all hope is lost. And just being very, very careful and making sure that you protect yourself in those situations is something that I'm going to be advocating for pretty heavily. How do I search for local pagans in my area, like Indiana groups? So, Maddie, I was mentioning it earlier, but go to Facebook, go to meetup.com, and any of those other sites, or even fucking Reddit or Discord servers or local, or like some of these bigger Facebook groups. Say, I'm in this area. I'm a pagan. I want to hang out. I want to meet up. Can we go to a local park? Most of the time, local parks are free. You can sometimes rent a pavilion for like $30 or $50. It's literally what I do. So, you can just be like, hey, I'm going to be here. I'm bringing some pizzas. You guys bring drinks, and get to know your local pagans in a public setting that is safe for everybody. And that is one of the best ways to start getting established locally. Yeah, that's another great one. Find your local metaphysical shop, your local crystal dealer. Not that kind of crystal. Local nature shop. I think there's like a natural, what is it called? Natural Wonders or something like that. It's a chain in most malls. Walk into those shops and ask them, like, hey, are there any like local pagan communities around here that you know of or that have left flyers around? And see. Um, you'll never know like what kind of information or flyers they might have available to be able to meet up with. Would you mind writing a draft on how to start a conversation about the AFA in the local UU church or local government to make people aware? Like, how would one bring that up? Jesus, that... Uh, the best way to do that is go to a... and I wouldn't mind writing something up. I wouldn't mind even making this like a separate video. How to talk to your local municipality, your local leaders, your local churches. But yeah, going to them and giving them information, just being like, hey, I'm nervous. I'm not a good... You can just straight up be honest with them. Like, hey, I've never done this before. I'm nervous. I'd like to speak with the leader of this church, whatever the pastor is, or secretary, or whatever. If they're an organization, they've got a board, they've got leadership that will listen to the public. And bring the information there, print it out. Print out links, have links available, have it ready to go in an email attachment, ask for an email address, send them information, send them links to YouTube videos. That is the best way. There are a couple YouTube videos that dive into the AFA and what they are. I think The Guardian did one back in like 2018 or 2019. That's where Ocean and I both have gotten some clips from. It's from that video. But yeah, just shedding sunlight on the issue, and anybody who listens to you and reads that information will know this is who they are and this is what we would be supporting if we started like associating ourselves with an organization like that. Wouldn't it be beneficial to educate and notify other like-minded people? Yes. Oh my gosh, who are not pagan? Yes. Talk with everybody. Talk with everybody. If your company has anybody, if you like have an HR department in your company and you feel comfortable talking about that, if the AFA shows up in your town, make your boss aware of it. Make your HR department aware of the AFA. If your local library has something, go to the local head librarian. Make sure that they're aware. Most librarians, even in rural areas, are going to be usually pretty based as fuck because they're college educated. They usually college educated people lean left. They'll understand the history, especially librarians will understand the history of fascism. And so once you start showing that the AFA is a fascist organization, they will understand. Like, being able to talk to these people and just be like, hey, yeah, they call themselves like pagan, but what's most important about them is that they're a religious white supremacist hate group. And being able to talk, just because you're not speaking to a pagan doesn't mean you can't say almost all of the exact same things. Most of this information has no bearing on whether or not you're speaking to a pagan directly. Or if you're speaking to an atheist or another Christian. As long as they're willing to listen and they themselves are not supportive of white supremacy, your message is going to land. Yes, SCA, HEMA, Ren Fair. Ren Fair is going to be your biggest one. Talk to your local Ren Fair organizers. Find out, again, Ren Fair organization. They're going to have a board. They're going to have a council. Speak to them. Make sure that they are aware. Most Ren Fair folks, lots of queer folks, they will want to know if the AFA is anywhere near them. They need to know that more than anybody. HEMA and SCA folks, absolutely. They don't want to get mixed up and stuff like that. I guarantee it. Especially the SCA folks. They want to focus on their stuff. If you have like a local anachronism group, they will want to know that as well. Because they're not interested in like the religious stuff, they're interested in the historical stuff. They're going to know that historically folks weren't racist as shit like the AFA tries to say they were. Local mead brewery, yeah, talk to your local meadery. Go to the owner of the local meadery. Let them know, like, hey, AFA is making a move in this area. Who's the AFA? All right, sit down. I need to show you a couple things. And let them know. Might be a dumb question. As we monitor the situation, would you continue to assist Asatru UK in the PPA stopping the AFA? Indie Party has done talks and moots. Theo, absolutely. I have an open line of communication with Jack. He and I have digitally shook hands. We are on the same page across the board. He and I have had some amazing talks these last couple days. I do like. There are zero positives about the AFA being in Europe, right? But silver lining is this has kind of opened the door for me to have conversations with some pretty interesting folks. I'm probably going to be sitting down with a handful of presidents from a handful of orgs, and might even be able to get them on a YouTube video here shortly. Man, we've talked about a lot. Here's something that's my brand, is I'm going to shoot it to you straight, but I will never give up hope. I always want to provide solutions. I think this is something that I get frustrated with a lot of other people, is they'll just give you the information, like they might like, especially when it's like something problematic or whatever, it's just like, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's like, okay, well, what are the solutions? What are the alternatives? Or, oh, there's this awful situation or bad problem. It's like, okay, well, what are our solutions? What can we do? There's always something you can be doing. You never have to just sit there in anxiety and be doomer about it. You can be doing something.
So I think that we've outlined quite a bit of useful information. You now know who the AFA are, you know some of their problems, you know what they're trying to do. The next step is move forward with this information, refer back to it as often as you need to, share it around with people. Don't give up hope. Keep fighting the good fight. If you're here, if you're agreeing with this, and you're an inclusive pagan, and you want to get more involved, join our Discord server. If you want to support the work that I do, join my wolf pack. It's my Patreon. It helps me do the work that I do. It helps me continue forward. It helps support the work that I do in the community. But most importantly, join the Discord server. Come hang out with us. Get involved. And until next time, go big or go home.